I thought that I was dreaming when you said you loved me. The start of nothing, I had no chance to prepare, I couldn't see you coming. The start of nothing, ooh, I could hate you now. It's quite alright to hate me now. When we both know that deep down, the feeling still deep down is good. If I could see the walls, I could see it faking. If you could see my thoughts, you would see your faces. Safe in my rental, like an army truck. Back then, we didn't give a fuck. Back then, I ain't a kid no more. We'll never be those kids again. We tried to sit, had the X6 back then. Back then, no matter what I did, my waves wouldn't dip back then. Everything sucked back then, we were friends.
I'm glad we're only going that far with this.
Michael Fish Herring, thank you so much for having us here at the Fish Tank, your studio, here in an undisclosed location in Burbank, California. And we just heard a little bit of Frank Ocean and the song Ivy.
Right.
And this is a song you played on. I'm anxious to get into the session and the details about kind of how this part came to be. You may know that this is in a select group of songs on Spotify that have had over 1 billion streams. So people have heard you whether they know it or not.
Right. Right. Because who is, willing enough to dig deep and find credits these days?
Right.
Those credits aren't, just easily available.
Absolutely. It's not like the liner notes of a LP or something like that.
Right. Like I used to do when I was a kid, which was read every bit of every liner note.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing that it's in that group of songs to reach over 1 billion, because I didn't know the impact that this song had on people. It wasn't a huge hit, but people love this song, and it's one of those things where you do a session, you record a song, and you kind of forget about it, and then a record comes out, and people talk about the record a little bit, and then it kind of fades. But I think this is a record that is a song that people have loved over the years, and it's awesome.
Yeah. What was your introduction to Frank Ocean? Because usually I think about him as, kind of, being this kind of mercurial R&B guy, and he's had some sort of interesting guitar players over time. He's had you work on some songs. Charlie Hunter worked on some songs, and we actually talked to Charlie about doing the song that he's credited on. He's like, I don't think I could play it because I recorded something for a session, they chopped it all up, and they used it in a way that it wasn't what I played.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if you had a similar experience or a different experience. I want to hear what that session was like, how you came to be involved with Frank Ocean.
Well, I got the call from Omas Keith, who was producing Frank's record. He had produced his previous record. And Omas and I had been working together on some other projects, and we became friends. He called and he said, we're doing a session for Frank. I want you to come and play. And I think originally the session was booked for Ocean Way, which is now United. I think it was still Ocean Way back then, here in Hollywood. Classic room. I'm sure you've been in there. Yeah. It's an amazing studio. So much history. So I figured, okay, session at Ocean Way. I'm going to bring a ton of gear.
Yeah.
I didn't do cartage because I think I was coming from a rehearsal and I had a bunch of gear with me. Had my tech was with me, and we loaded up my SUV with a bunch of gear, probably 8 or 10 guitars, a couple of amps, a couple of pedal boards. So we were ready for whatever it was. I had no idea what the session was going to entail, but got to be over prepared.
Sure.
On the way to the session, there was a venue change. So Moss called and said, we're going to record it at Frank's place. So we ended up going to Frank's place. He was in a penthouse in Hollywood, and a little difficult to get gear in and out of, compared to Ocean Way. Load-in's easy there. Loading into a couple of elevators, was it was a little difficult with a bunch of gear, but so we got everything up there, and we got into Frank's studio and started listening to the song, and figured out, like, okay, we can mic a small amp and get, throw some tones together, and we got started on the song. One of the more interesting songs I've played on, for sure.
Yeah. So what was he like to work with? And like, was he the one directing you as far as what he wanted, or kind of how did the workflow go on this?
Frank definitely had a pretty good idea of what he wanted it to sound like, but we were working off of a demo that he had done with, I think it was one of the guys from Vampire Weekend, that they wrote the song together. And it was kind of a rough demo, but he wanted, between Frank and Omas, they wanted the guitar to sound, kind of messed up, kind of warbly, and not too clean, not too precise. And I think that might have been one of the notes, was not too precise. Don't make it sound like you can really, really play. Just kind of vibey.
Okay. And as far as like the guitars that you used, or the amps or stuff like that, did they have much feedback on that, or was it just kind of like you figure it out, this is the vibe, and then? Yeah,
it was pretty much me and my tech at the time, Trevor, just dialing in sounds and trying to, okay, we got a really super clean amp that can break up a little bit.
Yeah.
I was using the Rivera Clubster.
Okay.
And it's a single 10. The clean side is super clean. Overdrive gets pretty dirty, but we didn't want to go like dirty. So I think we just pushed the front end a little bit. May have had some kind of boost on my pedal board. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, probably that era. I mean, this probably would have been like early to mid 2010s, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around that.
So it could have been a lot of things, I guess, depending on
that. I do remember I had an H2O pedal.
Okay.
So I think that's where some of the chorus. I probably had another modulation pedal too.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't.
So visual sound.
Visual sound. Right.
Was it the one that was shaped like a home plate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was like that chorus cranked all the way up, and probably some of the delay that was on that. I probably had a Hall of Fame reverb because it wasn't my big board. It was kind of the mid-sized board.
And that was kind of the warbly vibrato-y thing. And then what about for like the rotary layer? Because there's another layer that's kind of rotary like.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was. I mean, I have a roto vibe. I'm trying to think of what else I had.
It would have been too early probably for the Flint.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not the Flint, the Lex.
Yeah, it was too early for the Lex.
Maybe the ventilator. You remember the Neo ventilator? I don't know if you were into those. That was like another Leslie that would have been contemporary for that time.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I see, but I do see a roto vibe over there.
There's an old roto vibe.
Maybe there was that one.
It's very possible.
Yeah,
because I had the pedal board and a bag full of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's very possible.
And was it this Pacifica guitar?
I think it was this Pacifica for at least one or two of the parts.
Okay.
It may have been the SA2200 for one of the parts. I mean, not positive, but I definitely had this one at that time, and this was my main guitar at that time. So.
And can you tell us, so there's this Pacifica is kind of like their version of like an S style guitar.
Yeah.
And it's like P90 neck, humbucker bridge.
Yeah, Lawler P90. I think this is a 59.
The Duncan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a 5-way switch.
Yeah.
This has the Fishman Power Bridge, which I usually don't tap much in the studio. That's just mostly for live purposes. So so I can get an acoustic sound along with the electric sound. But yeah, this one was made in the Burbank shop. Yamaha had a Burbank custom shop at that time.
Okay.
So Pat Capolatano, who was building guitars for Burbank for Yamaha at that time. Built this one in Burbank.
Wow. Well, it looks stunning. It's kind of like a blonde, that maybe looks like it's ash.
It's I think it's an ash body. We wanted to go with some kind of transparent white thing, and I remember opening the case, and Trevor Cole, who was my tech at the time, opened it up and said, "Looks like a Krispy Kreme donut." so this became Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
I love it. And did it come with the mirror pickguard, or is that some?
That was something that Pat put on.
Nice. And did he put in the silk screen or the?
Yeah, I think the logo came a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, because he had put my logo on another guitar too. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, the sounds here were absolutely incredible, and we know you talked about what you thought you might have used on the day, but to recreate this, can you kind of walk us through some of the tones and what the gear is that you use to recreate it now?
It's actually really simple. It's the Helix rack, which is kind of a lifesaver in a lot of situations when you need to dial something in really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know really good tone, then it's pretty easy to dial something in. So I think I really just listened to the recording and tried to remember what I used, and I thought, okay, it was a small amp, so I think I used a Princeton model,
right, which would have had a 110 speaker.
Yeah, so similar to the Rivera, just on the clean and a little bit of a breakup side. I put some kind of overdrive in front of it just to boost it.
Okay.
Not much though, and then I mean, if you want me to go through it, I can.
Yeah, or what we
can step through. Show a screenshot.
Yeah, what we can do is we can maybe overlay. You can send us some screenshots of these, and we can overlay them so folks can see exactly like the settings that you used for the various passes, because you kind of have 3 different passes. And I think that should be sufficient. It should be mentioned that Yamaha, our friends there, are helping sponsor the video today, and so we'll make sure that we have plenty of enriched diagrams so that folks can see exactly what the sounds are that we're using today to kind of recreate some of these hits that you've worked on. But yeah, we'll make sure to include that. I'll bother you about sending us maybe some screenshots of all the different layers and single path.
But yeah, it's I'm just dialing everything in on the Helix to try and get as close as possible to what I think was used at the time and what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it sounds pretty dead on in being able to recreate that. I have to say, like each of those layers, like when we're listening back to all 3 of them together, it's there.
It has that vibe, and the song itself, the guitars are very very reverby.
Yeah,
they're very very drowning.
Yeah,
drowning and swirling in reverb, and it's pretty cool. I know I definitely used reverb on the session. It was probably a Hall of Fame pedal. Set pretty hot, but Omas may have added a little extra
in post. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any interesting Frank Ocean stories that you can tell from the session on that day?
Nothing too interesting. I mean, Frank's a really sweet guy. He basically said what he needed, and we got to work.
Yeah.
He was kind of in and out. He wasn't in there the whole time. It took me a while to get through this song because there's not a standard format to this song. It's really interesting. The changes there's not a lot of changes, but they all occur in different sequences.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where it gets turned around where the melody starts on a different change.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to really get a grasp on where it was going, because it seemed like it was kind of meandering.
Yeah.
Until I really got into the song itself and listened to some of the lyrics and thought, okay, this is where he's going with it. He is telling a story here. I got to follow that.
So would they try to grid that for you, or like create a click for it when you're playing, or is it just kind of like you're listening to it and you're...
Yeah, it was kind of coming off of the demo, and the demo wasn't done to a click, so I think it was kind of varying a little bit. Yeah. I think the click may have been beat mapped, to fit the demo. So
Because even now, you couldn't put it to a grid.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely not on the grid. I think everything about this song is off grid.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the charm. It's part of the charm, and clearly it struck a chord with people having over 1 billion streams. And the thing that's so interesting about the song, just from a commercial standpoint, is I don't think it ever exceeded maybe the top 80 on billboards.
Right. Technically not a hit.
Yeah, but it has over 1 billion streams. So there's like some sort of, like groundswell of people that just loved. And I think it was either the first song on Blonde or in the first few songs. I don't know, maybe the proximity helped it. I'm not sure, but that's a great record.
Yeah, it's cool that the song definitely had an impact on a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've heard from people over the years that said they love this song. It's one of their favorite songs, and I was always blown away by that.
Yeah. We definitely need more Frank Ocean in the world. I'm hoping that he has another record here in the near future.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, I want to talk to you about another artist that you work with. And in this case, sort of an interesting posthumous working with them, I'm presuming, is Tupac.
Yeah.
And the hit song after, I think it was his first posthumous release, which was Thugz Mansion.
Right.
Thugz Mansion.
Thugz Mansion. Yeah.
And in our sort of pre-interview, you were talking about how there was still a lot of contention and possible danger around sort of working on these records because Suge Knight was, I guess, still somehow involved.
Suge Knight was still around, and I'm sure he felt like he had, he wanted to have control over the masters, and at that time, this is very early 2000s, so a lot of the masters were being converted from tape to digital. Everything was being archived and put into Pro Tools. And a very, very good friend, very close friend, he's family, Claudio Carini, who was the engineer. Claudio was also doing a lot of the transferring, and Claudio called me because he had engineered and mixed a lot of the posthumous Tupac stuff. So he had called me for the sessions on the Better Days album. And there was multiple producers on different songs, and it seemed like every song was really different.
And is that just because it was stuff that had been recorded over a long period of time, and then they were just trying to compile it for this record? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what the timeline was like on some of these songs, like when he had written them and recorded them, but apparently Tupac left, a huge wealth of unreleased music.
Yeah.
There was just tapes and tapes of him in the studio constantly.
Yeah.
So lots to work with. So Thugz Mansion, there was 2 different versions of the song.
Right.
There's a version that Seven produced. He's a brilliant producer. And then there was the version that Claudio and I did. So Claudio and I co-produced this acoustic version, and I didn't really think much of it. In the beginning I thought, oh, it's cool. You don't really hear acoustic guitars and rap.
Right.
But
you do a whole lot more now.
Yeah. Now you do. Yeah. Back then you didn't hear a whole lot of acoustic guitar, like just acoustic rap songs.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a thing. But it was an honor just to be brought in on some of those sessions.
So where was that session inevitably held? Because I'd heard stories about how they would, when that was being produced, that they would actually book like multiple places and then they would just go to one.
Yeah.
Did you have to like leave LA in order to record this?
Yeah,
or?
a lot of the sessions we were doing for Better Days, they were done at Skip Sailor's on. It used to be on Larchmont. Skip's moved since then, but it was an awesome spot that a lot of hip hop stuff was being done. Great studio, multiple rooms. But it was in Hollywood, so it's visible.
Right.
For the Thugz Mansion sessions, for some reason they thought it would be, label thought it would be better to get out of town.
Okay.
So we ended up in a house in Modesto.
Wow.
And tracked everything there.
Wow.
So we tracked what I thought would be the demo,
Okay.
because we're just tracking in a house in Modesto. We did actually re-record. Claudio and I re-recorded Thugz Mansion in LA at Claudio's place, and the label loved what I thought was the demo.
Wow.
So they
Stuck with it.
Yeah, they stuck with the demo, and I loved the second version. I thought it was cleaner. I thought just my overall playing was better. I thought I had played some better ideas on that, but hey, sometimes you don't have control over that stuff, and the label loved the original version we did, and that's what they released.
Okay.
And ultimately that became a single and a video, and they asked me to be in the video, which is super cool.
Wow.
So I mean, I just wish Tupac was around for all that. That's the sad part of it, is that he wasn't there to experience what ultimately what that song became.
Did you ever meet him when he was living?
No, never met him.
Wow. And for that song, obviously you used an acoustic. Do you still have the acoustic that you used?
I do. I used two. There's a steel string and a nylon string.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's actually three acoustic tracks.
Wow.
There's steel string on the left, nylon string on the right, kind of playing the same thing, and then there's steel string part doing some solo stuff.
Okay.
Some bits in between.
So what are you going to do for us today in sort of the recreation of it?
I'm going to use those two guitars.
You do the same thing?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So we're going to get all three layers.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Shit, tired of getting shot at, tired of getting chased by the police and arrested. Niggas need a spot where we can kick it, a spot where we belong, that's just for us. Niggas ain't gotta get all dressed up and be Hollywood. You know what I mean? Where them niggas go when we die? Ain't no heaven for a thug nigga. That's why we go to Thugz Mansion. That's the only place where thugs getting free and you gotta be a G. At Thugz Mansion. A place to spend my quiet nights, time to unwind, so much pressure in this life of mine. I cried times I once contemplated suicide and would have tried, but when I held that knife, all I could see was my mama's eyes. No one knows my struggle, they only see the trouble, not knowing it's hard to carry on when no one loves you. Picture me inside the misery of poverty. No man alive has ever witnessed struggles I survived. Praying hard for better days, promise to hold on. Me and my dogs ain't have a choice but to roll on. We found a finally spot to kick it, where we could drink liquor and know what bickers over trick shit. A spot where we can smoke in peace. And even though we G's, we still visualize places that we can roll in peace. And in my mind's eye, I see this place that players going past. I got a spot for us all, so we can ball at Thugz Mansion.
Every corner, every city, there's a place where life's a little easy. Little Hennessy, laid back and cool every hour, cause it's all good. Leave all the stress from the world outside. Every wrong done will be alright. Nothing but peace, love, and street passion. Every girl is a thug.
Well, I survive all the fights in the darkness, trouble sparks. They tell me home is where the heart is, dear departed. I shed tattooed tears and couldn't sleep good for multiple years. Witness peers catch gunshots, nobody cares. Seen the politicians ban us, they rather see us locked in chains.
Before we go any further, I wanted to mention that all the stuff that we're doing today would not be made possible without our friends over at Moises AI. Now, we're using Moises AI as a way to separate tracks so that we're able to recreate some of these legendary songs by some of these legendary artists and separate the guitar part out so that Fish can replay some of his original parts to that. And you can see on the stuff that we've already done and things that are coming, there are multiple layers. So being able to strip all those layers individually and then add them back in is something that most AI programs that are doing this sort of stuff firstly can't offer. But moreover, we're also using it to be able to pitch correct some of the songs, because often, as we know in recording, especially stuff that's being brought over from tape, they will often be at different pitches other than A440. So we want to make sure that we can address that so that we're not having tuning nightmares on the day. So I put everything at A440 so that we're able to have an easy day tuning and we're not having to adjust to these sort of changes, these small changes in the way.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes life easier.
definitely makes it easier. Not only does it do that, but when I export it, like let's say to you, it tells us the key, it tells us the BPM, and all these things that are just useful tools to be able to do this. This is a great practice tool as well for guitar players. And Moises is offering our viewers a special trial. You can check out the QR code on screen and scan that. Also check out the link in the description if you're interested in learning more about what we're doing here or how you might use Moises in your own musical life to help improve, help use it as a practice tool if you want to learn some sections out of different songs. It's a really, really fantastic thing. I absolutely love it. Check out our friends over at Moises AI, and we'll continue on. Wow, those layers are great.
Thanks, man.
Love it. And so tell us about these guitars. And so both of these, as we said, were what was used on the original track. Is that right?
Yeah. Both of these guitars were used on the original recording.
So this is like a kind of like a dreadnought with a cutaway.
Yeah. This is it's an LLX 500C. Yamaha does a lot of numbers and letters.
Yeah. Intuitive.
Very intuitive. Yeah. They all mean something. This was the first steel string that I got when I started working with Yamaha.
How many years has it been now with Yamaha?
23, I think. It was 23rd year.
Wow.
So this is the first acoustic that I got when I first started working with Yamaha.
Yeah.
And I needed something for some live stuff. I needed something for recording that it was mostly for live. This is the guitar I was using for a lot of live stuff. But this was this was the one. Like, it just felt great right away. It still feels great. Need to play this one a little more often. But so it was this on on the main steel string track,
And all the fills are this.
and all the fills. This is also in the video for the song, which is cool.
And then the other.
And then the other one was the nylon string that's on the right channel. That's my old Takamine nylon string that I've had. I think I bought that at Zapp's Music Scene. I think that's what it was called. Zapp's Music in Philly.
Wow.
Which is like one of the bigger mom and pop music stores in Philly that we all used to go to as kids and just salivate over everything.
Right.
But yeah, I'd gotten that nylon string probably early to mid 90s in Philly, and it was probably one of the 4 guitars I came to LA with.
Wow. What were the other 3?
The other 3 were Parkers.
Oh, wow. Parker Flies.
Yeah, because I was on tour at the time, and that's what I was using on tour. I'd kind of gotten rid of most of like any other old gear that I had. It was just anything I was touring with, and I had my nylon string.
Wow. Well, speaking of things that brought you out here to LA, I'm not sure if this was the band that did it, but it's certainly one of the early bands that you worked with that really broke it big in the R&B scene, which is Dru Hill, which they had some amazing songs. I think they even had some that were Babyface songs.
There were some Babyface songs. There's some big ballads.
Well, so the song is "How Deep Is Your Love," and we're not talking about the Bee Gees song.
Right.
We're talking about Dru Hill, which is a
different depth.
I think they're different depth. and ironically, "How Deep Is Your Love" is part of a movie soundtrack as well. But, in any case, this is their biggest hit, as far as I know. As far as like the numbers are concerned, and streams and things like that. It was placed on Rush Hour. I'm not sure which version of Rush Hour it was, or
it was the very first
Rush
one.
Hour. Okay,
yeah,
with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
And I remember it well. I remember the music video was sort of tied with the movie and all that stuff. And it's a great. It's very representative of what that era of R&B music sounded like.
Yeah,
very, very much representative of that. So
very strong MPC drum sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that era.
So how did this song come about? Like, kind of at what stage did you get involved with it?
I was there from the very beginning of the song. It was kind of being put together by a team of people in the studio at the moment, and playing off different parts and coming up with ideas on the spot. We were at which is the very first studio in LA that I recorded at, which was Larrabee, Larrabee West, I think, is what it was known as, which doesn't exist anymore, sadly. But a lot of records done at that studio, and it was an amazing place. So yeah, it was a kind of team effort on building the song, and it's not a very difficult song. You know, the changes are really simple. They're kind of typical changes, but there were two versions of the song. The original version had a rap, which I believe was Redman.
Okay.
Either Redman or Method Man, or maybe both.
Okay.
I think it was Redman. And then the song got placed in the Rush Hour soundtrack, and they didn't want to use the rap, they wanted a bridge. So Cisco and I actually wrote the bridge for the song in a hotel in Hong Kong. And we went into a studio in Hong Kong, recorded the bridge. It sounds kind of seamless to me. You can hear a difference in the guitar, but it was the same guitar. I had that nylon string with me. And yeah, the bridge of the song was recorded in Hong Kong. It was a very different, very different atmosphere.
Wow.
But you know, we were hanging out with Brett Ratner and you know, living the Hong Kong lifestyle for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was there during that video shoot for the song.
Wow.
I'm not in that video. I didn't want to be in that video.
Yeah.
But that song itself was a really interesting project because it started in West Hollywood and ended up in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if we might be able to play some of it and to get to hear it.
Yeah. There's basically two different parts. There's nylon string, which is the main line that kind of runs through the song. But there's another line underneath, and I remember playing it, but I'm not sure if what's on the record is, if what's heard is kind of a keyboard mimicking that part, or if it's my part, or if it's both.
Okay.
So let's
It's your mix, so we're going to assume it's guitar.
yeah. And this mix is definitely guitar.
All right. Let's give it a try.
Right on.
That sounds incredible. I love that so much of that era of R&B had like that kind of nylon, like people wanted that kind of Spanish style nylon acoustic on a lot of those.
It got very, very popular throughout, like, you know, mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
R&B. It was very Latin-ish influenced.
Yeah. But typically, would you use a pick when you were doing that sort of stuff, and they weren't actually hiring like flamenco guys?
Yeah, it all depends on what I'm doing, because I love to do both. I love to do finger style, and I try and keep a little nail left on my right hand. But I think for that line specifically, it just sounded better. It jumped out better with a pick.
Yeah. And for guitar, what do you think you probably used on the actual track?
I definitely used this guitar.
Okay. And for electric, what do you
For
think?
electric, it would have been Parker Fly.
Yep.
Which were very popular at that time.
Yeah.
Like mid to late '90s.
Yeah.
That was the hottest
Yeah.
thing. That was the hottest new thing. And then I think I had 3 of them. At that point, I was touring with the Parker Flies. The thing I loved about them was the immediate acoustic access.
Sure.
Having a TRS output.
Right.
Being able to split, acoustic and electric.
Right.
It had the piezo bridge.
And what do you think you would have plugged into for amp on that?
It definitely wasn't my Rivera Bonehead, which is what I was touring with at that time.
The Lukather signature.
Yeah. The big ass, huge sound.
410s with subs.
No, it was 412s.
412s, that's right.
412s, then a separate 212
sub,
side
yeah.
cabinet with a separate power amp. So it was 100 watt.
And they're
100
pretty-
watt 3-channel.
I've seen it a couple, like they're like super wide.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
it's probably one of the widest Riveras that are out there.
It's a 3-channel head.
Yeah.
And it's, it not quite hangs over the edge of a 412 cabinet, but it's
Right.
pretty wide.
Right.
So yeah, that was my touring rig, which I probably didn't have in the studio at that moment. So it may have been direct, possibly a Boss GT5.
Right. So like the floor
Vertex,
unit.
yeah. Yeah, which I think I was using that quite a bit, especially for recording. It just made it easier back then. I guess with the evolution of guitar recording, there was like where the beginning where everybody was recording direct. There was a lot of direct guitar recording. Then everything was all mic amps, which we still prefer overall. And now we're back to the direct recording, which is so much fun.
Well, those Bosch, the GTs were pretty common even at that time. Like I know a lot of the Usher records that had guitar on them were done with those sort of Boss 4 units. A lot of times it's going DI, so it wasn't uncommon or unheard of for the time, for sure.
That GT5 had some beefy stuff in it too.
Yeah, I think some of it too. I think some of the effects were actually analog in some of those Boss 4 units.
Yeah, they were, especially in the 5. I think the GT6 was a little more digital.
Yeah,
but the GT5 was killer.
Yeah.
Hey.
Can you tell us just for a moment, because it's such a beautiful guitar, if we switch back to that Yamaha that you were playing for it,
sure.
Like, can you tell us like the story of like, this doesn't look like the regular Revstar that I've seen in stores. What's the deal with this guitar?
Not a typical Revstar.
First of all, the color, you got this beautiful like sparkle finish.
Yeah, this was built in Calabasas.
Okay.
So it's a Calabasas custom shop.
Okay.
Built by Pat Completano, who's now with another company.
Yeah.
He's now building a lot of the Charvel Jackson stuff.
Okay.
Pat was the lead designer at Yamaha at the time, and we sat down lunch, had a conversation about what we wanted it to look like and sound like and feel like, and this is what it came out to be.
It's gorgeous. Looks like it's got the locking kind of Grover.
Yeah, it's got the lock and Grovers, which I mean, like stability wise, it's awesome. It's
a nice binding, P90 neck, humbucker bridge, ABR1. Is this also power bridge?
Yeah. This is the Fishman Power Bridge.
Okay.
It's got the mini toggle to go between the power bridge, both, and then just the magnetic.
And then 5-way switch here.
5-way switch. Volume, tone.
Okay.
So this volume is for the
bridge,
the piezo bridge.
Okay.
Yeah. Lawler P90. This is a John Suhr, Doug Aldrich.
Yeah. Okay. Those are cool.
That was Pat's idea, and it was a great choice because it's really super versatile. And when you want it to get hot, it gets really hot.
It's a beautiful guitar. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to move from Dru Hill, and I want to move to an artist that you've been, I would say, probably most closely associated with for the majority of your career here in LA, which is one of the great pop divas, the great Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
So how did you first get involved with Christina? Like, when did that happen? Like, when were you first introduced to her?
I think it was 2002.
Okay.
When Ricky Minor was putting a band together for Christina. So I got a call about auditions. So there were auditions at center staging, and that was the start. And I walked into that room in center staging, saw a bunch of friends, and thought, oh, this is gonna be a killer band. It was Rob Lewis, Ethan Farmer, Brian Fraser Moore was the drummer, who we had known each other in Philly, and we had a fusion band together at one point in Philly.
So 2002 is ground floor pretty much here. Like it's early days.
Yeah, it was pretty early, but it was after her first album. So she had achieved some success, but this is before the Stripped album came out. And then we heard some of the music and thought, okay, it's a little different from her first album. It's not as still pop, but not as poppy. It's a little more edgy. But yeah, Ricky Minor put that band together.
Was he involved in the actual band, or he just put the band together?
He put the band together.
Wasn't MD or anything like that.
He essentially was the MD. Okay. Yeah, Ricky was the MD at that point.
What's he like to work for? I heard he was one of the best, but also one of the toughest.
Ricky is one of the best of all time. He really is. He's a super person. I couldn't say enough great things about Ricky. He's an amazing guy, an amazing musician, amazing arranger of people. He knows how to put the right people together. That's why in his band over the years, there's guys that have been with him for so long, because they all fit together so well. And it was kind of the same thing with the band that Ricky put together for Christina, because that same band that was Christina's band, most of us ended up being bands for other artists. We stayed a unit for years, working, over a decade, almost 2 decades, working with different artists. So it was really Ricky that put that unit together.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the most in-demand guy. He did all that American Idol stuff for so long, and Paul Jackson
and Leno
talks about him, all the time, and Leno, and boy, he's just, it only seems like recently maybe he started to take less work and delegate to like Adam Blackstone and some of these other guys, because he's just one of the
Ricky's a legend, and he's one of the best to ever do it. He's awesome. So he really put that band together, and also with some of Rob Lewis's arrangements over the years. We've played some of these songs in so many different ways. I don't know how many different versions of Genie in a Bottle we've played over the years.
How many times do you think you've played Genie in a Bottle your entire life?
Oh man, that's
it's thousands.
Scary question. I don't know how many shows have we done over the years. It's
maybe really rehearsals and all that stuff. It's got to be thousands.
Oh yes, definitely definitely in the thousands.
So you know her catalog backwards and forwards. In other words, yeah. Well, the reason why I'm asking this is because I know that if we were just about recreating the album version, into the degree that there is even guitar on some of those.
Yeah, on a lot of the songs there is no guitar, especially some of the early ones.
Yeah, I felt like one of the coolest arrangements that I've seen in the song lately has been the Spotify sessions that Christina participated in and had some guests like Sabrina Carpenter and Machine Gun Kelly. And beautifully shot, beautifully arranged, some really cool prominent use of the guitar. And so I thought maybe instead of just going to the album, that we'd actually use some recent live arrangements that are a little more contemporary. And then have you recreate 2 of her biggest songs. So What a Girl Wants and also Genie in a Bottle. Awesome. And get to recreate those. So what are we going to use? Let's start first with going with What a Girl Wants, since that was the one with Sabrina Carpenter as sort of a duet sort of thing.
Right. So that was those sessions were so much fun because it was the band in the room. We all played together.
Where is that room? It looks incredible.
That's downtown. It's actually Spotify Studios.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they just create a new set for like everybody that comes in there? Because it doesn't.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they dressed the set for whatever artists needed. And, change the aesthetics of it for sure. But drums were in an ISO room. Horns were in an ISO room. In the room, Christina was in the center of the room. There was background singers next to me. On the other side was bass player, and then keyboard player, and then strings.
Yeah.
So there was a trio of string player.
Yeah.
But I mean, Christina's band is like this. Her current band is incredible.
Yeah, you could see it in a minute. Like you don't not even a minute. You can watch a couple seconds, and as soon as you hear it,
the band is so good. You know, just playing the live shows, we have so much fun together.
How's that?
There's such Chris Pat, incredible drummer. Chris Pat Bounds from Memphis, just monstrous drummer. Back when Stanley Randolph was in the band, Stanley was subbing out. Stanley said, "I'm bringing my guy in from Memphis to sub for me." Chris Pat been there
ever since,
because he really made the gig his own. It's like he's got a unique approach to songs. Yeah, really cool. Larry Flex Williams playing bass. Not too much I can say about Flex. He's the dopest, the bottom end. He's here, like he's got it. His translation of bass lines is totally different than anybody I've ever played with.
Yeah.
Just his approach to it, really interesting. Keyboard player is Ricky Pajot, who I've been a fan of for years, ever since I met him when he first came here from Montreal. He played with Madonna for years. Just so incredible musicians in this band.
Yeah.
So to take, some really simple pop songs and turn them into songs that we love to play.
Yeah.
They're amazing songs to begin with. Great written pop song is, it kind of goes on forever if it's a really well written song, which a lot of Christina's songs are. A lot of her songs are timeless because they're just great songs. So we can take a song like Genie in a Bottle that at the time in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, that was the sound of the time. But we've played it so many different ways that it evolves into different things.
Yeah. And does she give you the freedom to kind of like, for whoever is MDing, are you MDing these typically, or who's the MD for the live stuff?
There's a combination. It's a group effort for sure. On the road, I'm the band leader.
Okay.
And making sure everything runs. Chris Hartz has been doing all the programming, putting arrangements together.
Okay.
And joining us on the road too. Is also doing playback for a while, which I know he got tired of that. But yeah, some of Chris's arrangements are really cool. Chris did these arrangements for the Spotify sessions, and then we all put our own thing into it.
Yeah,
there is that trust of we're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah,
we're going to play something cool, and if it doesn't work, we know individually if our parts aren't working.
Yeah.
And within the band, we're going to let each other know.
Yeah, so it's pretty democratic in that sense.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, what guitar did you use for What a Girl Wants?
I used my Yamaha. I think that's called an LJ6 26.
All right. Remember that one? Remember that one?
It's a jumbo with a cutaway.
Yeah. Nice.
So
was that all just plugged straight in, just kind of DI'd, or did they?
It was DI, which that guitar has amazing DI. It's probably one of the best sounding DIs I've ever heard, just straight in. There's a lot of history that goes into the making of that system, and it's really cool. There was also an AEA ribbon mic in front of the guitar, which that was the primary sound.
Awesome.
I think the DI was there for backup and for some top end.
Yeah.
But that AEA sounded so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to have a ribbon mic in front of me.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, let's play a little of it.
Yeah. All right.
I wanna thank you for giving me time to breathe. Like a rock, you waited so patiently while I got it together, while I figured it out. I only looked, but I never touched, 'cause in my heart was a picture of us holding hands, making plans. And it's lucky for me you understand what a girl wants, what a girl needs, whatever makes me happy and sets you free. you, Sabrina.
There was a time I was blind, I was so confused. Ran away just to hide it all from you. Baby, you know me better than I knew myself. They say if you learn something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours, and that's how you know. It's for keeps, yeah, it's for sure. And you're ready, you're willing to give me more than what a girl wants. A girl needs makes me happy, set to free. Now I'm thanking you for knowing exactly what a girl wants, what a girl needs, whatever keeps me in your arms. I'm thanking you for giving it to me. What a girl needs. Somebody sensitive, crazy, sexy, cool like you. What a girl you let a girl know how much you care about her, I swear. You don't want to always, no. Whatever keeps me in your arms is what I need. Oh, it's what I need. Oh, it's what I want. What I need, what I want for you. Oh, baby, I want you to know. What I want is what you got. What you got is what we want. That's right.
Nice.
And it goes on a little bit longer, but we don't need all that, right? Yeah. That was fun because, like, seeing the two of them together.
Yeah. I would presume that they're friends based on sort of the interactions that they were having, unless they're just really good.
They seemed so comfortable together, like they had known each other for years. I don't know if they had just met or if they've been in the same room before. I don't know.
What was your impressions of Sabrina Carpenter? I mean, she seems like she's really blown up in the last...
Yeah, she's really sweet. Like, she's super sweet. I had met her before. She was on a show called Girl Meets World.
Okay.
On a Disney show.
Okay.
And the lead girl on that show was one of my wife's clients. So I knew her really well. And I had met Sabrina a couple times back then. So it was not maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
She's really sweet. She was really, really nice. She came, she walked in the room and just wanted to say hi to everybody individually.
Yeah.
So she's really sweet.
From, by all accounts, is amazing singer, and that record was, this last record was huge. There's so many great songs.
Yeah, she's really blown up, and I know everybody's really proud of her. She's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that sounded incredible with the Yamaha, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I love that arrangement. So good. I'm wondering if we can transition now to the other song that was featured, which is Genie in a Bottle with Machine Gun Kelly. Presumably this was all done on the same day, right? Those two songs were separate days?
Yeah, they were all done on the same day at the Spotify studios.
So what was that like working with Machine Gun Kelly, getting added into the band for the guitar solo section?
It's pretty funny. Like, if you actually watch the video, he's not in until the very end.
Yeah.
He walks up, grabs the guitar, and does a solo for last 8 bars. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a really good guy. He was really excited to be there. He was really into, like, let's dial in the right tone for this. Let's get, let's make sure all the notes are right, make sure everything looks cool and sounds great.
Was he DI or was he?
He was DI. He was Kemper.
Okay, Kemper.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah,
And then
I was actually using the Helix and the Power Cab.
Okay.
Line 6 Power Cab, the 212 stereo.
Mm-hmm.
So the DI out of the Power Cab.
Yep.
So no mics on the cab.
Sure.
So we have mics on acoustics, no mics on electrics, but
Okay.
it worked really well. I mean, the Power Cab really covers a lot of ground because you can add in the microphone modeling too, which makes a big difference. And I always go for my favorite mics, so
Yeah.
it tends to work really well.
In the same band, obviously, because it's just kind of a continuation.
Yeah.
Anything kind of remarkable about, like, was this like multiple takes to get this, or is it like a comp thing after the fact?
No comps. No comps after the fact. Just straight live. I think we did 2 takes of each song on the Spotify.
Got it.
Spotify thing, I think.
And then they would just take the better of whichever the two, one of the 2 takes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, but it was pretty solid. We got a full day of rehearsal.
Nice.
For these arrangements, and then
in that space, or did you?
Yeah, in that space, which made it easier once the cameras were up and we were rolling. We were all comfortable in in that space.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool.
So I think on that one, as I recall, you were using a Revstar of some type.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have that one handy?
I
here?
sure do. It's right here next to me.
Can we switch guitars?
Yeah.
Get to
Let's
hear a
switch
little of
up.
that.
I feel like I've been locked up tight for a century of lonely nights, waiting for someone to release me. Baby, licking your lips and blowing kisses my way, but that don't mean I'm gonna give it away. Baby, baby, baby. Oh, yeah. My body's saying let's go. But my heart is saying what? If you wanna be with me, baby, there's a price to pay. I'm a genie in a bottle. If you wanna be with me, I can make you wish for the room. Gotta make a big impression. Gotta like what you are. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. Gotta rub me the right way, honey. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. Oh, 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 yeah. You're just fading and the lights are low. Just one more dance and then we're good to go. Waiting for someone who needs me, baby. Almost racing at the speed of light, but that don't mean it's gotta be tonight, baby, baby, baby. Oh, oh, yeah. My body's saying let's go. Oh, but my heart is saying what? If you wanna be with me, baby, there's a price to pay. I'm a genie in a bottle. Oh, the right way. If you wanna be with me, I can make you make a big impression.
Well, Fish, I love all those arrangements. It's super cool. This guitar sounds incredible. What is this is another Revstar, of course.
Yeah, this is another Revstar,
but outfitted differently. So what are some of the particulars on this one?
It started out as a Japanese made. It was kind of a raw body and neck that Raphael, who's the designer and main guitar builder at the Yamaha custom shop here in Calabasas. I'd originally needed a black guitar for a Vegas residency we were doing with Christina.
Okay.
So that was the initial idea, was like, okay, I need a black Revstar. Then I've always wanted to try Filtertron pickups in a Revstar and thought it would be cool. And then we decided on the Duesenberg tremolo instead of Bixby, which super smooth tremolo. It's also got the Fishman power bridge, TRS output, 5-way switch, the mini toggle to go between the bridge and the magnetics. It's just, it feels killer. It sounds great. It's a great guitar. But it's a little different for Filtertrons to have a 5-way switch to split these type of pickups. Like the out of phase stuff sounds interesting. It's a little different, but man, the full on pickups, the full volume of these pickups sound really good.
Was that mostly neck pickup for that? Where you're...
Yeah, that was all neck pickup.
Okay.
I love the sound of this neck pickup.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Absolutely. And for the Helix, for the Helix rack, it looked like it's, from what we can see up here, pretty simple signal chain.
Yeah, really, really simple signal chain, and it's very similar to what I actually used on the recording.
Yeah.
Because I did use the Helix for the recording at the Spotify studios.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is I think I used the power cab for the speaker emulation.
Yeah.
In at the Spotify studios.
Got it.
Which here I'm using the kind of the cab emulation within the Hill.
Well, to round out sort of the Mount Rushmore here of the iconic females in pop that you've worked with, we've talked about Christina Aguilera, that you've worked with for a long time. And of course, you've also worked with the great Mariah Carey. Now, I'm curious how you got the call for that session and how that all came about, because that was on the Glitter album.
Right.
I think it was pretty popular for her. So how did you get called to play on that?
That was an interesting one. That was essentially a Rick James session.
Wow. Yeah, so Rick James is still alive.
Rick James was still alive. Rick James was very alive at that time.
Right.
He Rick brought together a bunch of musicians at we were at Record Plant in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty much a Rick James session, but Rick wrote all the lyrics and the melody, but the band pretty much came up with the entire groove. And Rick wandered around the studio until he liked what he heard, and the band was grooving.
Did he play any instruments? I know Rick James would play bass and maybe some other instruments normally on his own songs.
Yeah, Rick didn't play bass on this one. He, I think he did get behind the keyboard at one point. He may have played synth bass.
Okay.
Because there is synth bass and real bass on it.
Yeah.
But Doug Rigsby is the one that brought me in. Doug was an amazing bass player. Doug was Teena Marie's musical director, and I played with Teena. Doug brought me into the Teena world for a while, and that was the association with Rick James. So Rick had called Doug and said, bring a bunch of your guys in to do this session for this Mariah Carey thing. And there we were at the record plant, just watching James, watching Rick James be Rick James.
And so did Mariah come in at any point, or was this like he got the groove?
Yeah,
he became kind of like part of the
track? He got the
track?
groove, and then he spent the rest of the day, the rest of the night, working out lyrics and melody. And when you listen to it, it sounds like a Rick James song.
Right, that was sung by Mariah Carey.
It was sung by Mariah Carey, yeah.
And do you remember gear-wise what you would have used on that?
At that time, it was probably the Rivera Bonehead.
Okay.
Probably scaled down. It might have just been through a 212 cab. I probably wouldn't have set up the full 412 and 212 together.
And then guitar-wise, would it have been a Mike Stern, or would it?
Guitar-wise, it was probably a Parker.
A Parker.
Yeah, it was either Parker or it might have been my Telly. It might have been that red Telly.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to tell with the tone because it was mostly wah-wah stuff on the song. So it was one or the other. It was probably the Telly.
What are we going to use today?
I think today I'm going to use one of the Mike Stern Tellys.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's switch guitars and let's go through it.
Really all the way up. What you say? Come on, give it a little bit. Give it
It's a fun groove.
Yeah, it's a great groove. What's this wah-wah we got here?
This is an exotic wah
Yeah.
with a couple of the knobs tweaked on the side.
Yeah.
Now, this did not exist back then.
Sure. What do you think you might have used for wah back then?
Definitely a crybaby.
Okay.
Might have just been a standard crybaby,
Okay.
not a 535, which I ended up switching to. But
Yeah. Well, these exotic ones are great because they have the kind of the clickless true bypass.
yeah,
And then it's got controls for some of the EQs and the Q, and
yeah,
it sounds like a
super
really
versatile.
optimized vintage sounding wah, but also about 30% smaller than normal wah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
easier to fit on a pedal board. For sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Fish, these were some amazing guitar parts and some amazing hooks. And I'm just so grateful for all the things that you've done for music and pop. I just can't thank you enough. Thank you for everything. Thanks for allowing us to come to your studio today. And man, if people want to check out what you're up to, more about what you're doing, where's the best place for them to do that?
Honestly, my website is pretty out of date, and I haven't been doing some social media, but I promise I'm going to get back into it.
We're going to get you back on the horse because we're going to be sharing all this content out, and you're going to be collaborating with us.
too.
Yeah.
So, Colorblind Fish on Instagram. That's the best place to start. And my studio, also the Fish Tank, which I've got a new Instagram page for that. So
Cool.
So we'll be doing both.
We'll make sure we have all of your credentials listed in the description of the video so people can check that out if they're interested in learning more. And man, it's just such a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I just can't wait to get this out to the world and for people to get to feel what I'm feeling sitting next here to you and hearing all these great guitar parts. So thanks again.
Yeah,
Mike.
thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.